like John Calipari as a coach, but I think he's behind in keeping up with the realities of what he had to work with talent-wise. I mean, he did say maybe he needs to recruit differently now, and I think he's a little late on that.
How does that work in the business world? Sometimes a business owner does something because we've always done it that way. This is what we do. And then it turns into this is what we do. We can't do it any other way. And they fall behind the curve. Talk about that. And when what you see from an HR standpoint, because all of a sudden maybe we have some antiquated ideas on hiring handbook, because everybody I've ever talked to said you need a handbook, an employee handbook. I mean, the second that you get the idea that you want a business, you better get an employee handbook.
So when companies come to us and say, I need an employee handbook, why? I mean, we always ask why. Why do you want it, and what are you going to do with it,
Because
right?
the scroll written at the beginning of time said that to be a successful business, you need to have an employee handbook, you need to have a vision statement, you need to have all those things, and we're ready to start.
Well, I often ask why.
And a mission statement.
Right.
You got to have all those.
Yeah, you do. But I would, like I do as a small business owner, is it worth spending time and money on, right? Like if you, I say, they say I want an employee handbook. My why is really what are your plans to build out your HR infrastructure and how are you going to make use of what you put in place, right? Which is why the canned employee handbook from the vanilla template that you download free from Google that has all kind of legalese in it. I don't see how that adds value other than checking the box that yes, we have an employee handbook, and then it just sits on a shelf and nobody reads it. Now, how are you going to leverage this piece of customized to your business material? How are you using that to make it a great culture, a great onboarding experience for the employee, a tool for your managers to hold employees accountable? I mean, that's how you, what you bother to invest in. How are you going to weave it into your business? And how are you going to be certain that it actually reflects what you want your business to be? That's again why the vanilla template for all the stuff to show.
So, ma'am, I used to be a paper boy.
Well,
Okay. And so shout out to the North Penn Reporter. I was a very good paper boy, which kind of made me leery of dogs. Okay. And you want to know where I'm going with this.
no, I have no idea.
No, you have no idea. And so my cousins always had dogs, but they had big bad dogs, German shepherds. And one day I was fooling around with my cousin, and she was the only girl out of a whole bunch of boys. And their dog jumped through the glass and was on me in seconds. So that on top of being a paper boy scared of dogs, I'm not the biggest fan of dogs.
Right.
And where I'm going with this is HR is like a big dog, okay? And we're gonna break the glass in case of emergency. I said if I ever got a dog, I want to get one or two dogs. One an Alaskan Husky or one of those little Paris Hilton dogs. Now I know there's a big
You're
difference.
walking around with Chihuahua in your
Well,
bag?
I just kind of, it's I think it's pretty funny. But and I want a big fluffy dog that ain't scaring anybody. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
HR is like that ferocious dog that you better break the window and let him out because when he comes out, business is being taken care of. Am I a lunatic man or not?
Well, no, but that's the narrative I've been trying to change for forever. Hence our mission to be HR done differently, right? Because everybody thinks HR is scary, or the police, or the person that comes only to terminate people. It's all these negative events. And really, my ideal, and a lot of us on our team say we're often delusional about what HR
So,
can
in
be.
other words, your crew kind of rolls with you. You guys are getting. You guys are like the ones who get looked at funny at the picnic because you may not think like everybody else.
Well, part of how we hire is you're going to make sure that you bring people onto the team. I'm going to make sure I bring people onto the team that rally behind our vision, our mission, and our values, like you talked about earlier. Because if you don't have passion to try and change the narrative about what HR once was to what it can be and should be, then you're probably not a great fit for our culture. And this is why clients come to us because they want to work with an HR person that inspires them to be on this path of building out an add value HR infrastructure, which is part of the business growing in their path of continuous improvement.
I know sometimes when I get something from Mindy Flanagan, it is different. I'm just minding my business at 12:30, and that is AM.
Yes.
And I get
Are you talking about the thing I sent you? I said we should talk about this?
yes, we should talk about
We
this.
should talk about
What
this.
all right, we're gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about. What inspired you that it got to you 30 minutes past midnight that we need to talk to inform our listeners?
Well, because you are a great collaborator, and I know I see you every Tuesday, and I know often we're thinking about what can we talk about that would be really informative to your
Okay.
followers
All
and
right.
inspire them to want to know about something or do something.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 1 second. Here we go. Okay, ma'am, what was it that we're going to talk about?
There was an article floating around one of our local publications. I don't remember which one. I could
We're
look at
not,
my
but
phone and look
we
it
know,
up.
maybe we shouldn't call names.
Yeah. No, we're not going to call names.
No names.
I think
We just know.
there is apparently, according to the story, and there's a broader reason I'm bringing this up, but apparently, according to the story, a young cheerleader coach was hired by a head coach at one of our colleges, one of our local universities. The short story is it looks like he circumvented HR and went ahead and hired this girl, and she moved from Florida to Virginia out of her own pocket, but actually worked for 6 days. And then the head coach said, I'm botching this up a little, but the head coach says, click on the job posting from HR just as a formality so they can get your information and add you to the payroll system. But it turns out HR didn't even know this guy hired this coach who'd been working for him for 6 days, not to mention the free work she did for him during the job interview. And ultimately, when she checked the box on corresponding with HR, they said in a series of conversations, we're still trying to fill this job, but we're happy to consider you for it, when she's already doing the work. And then ultimately, days later, said, we've decided to go in another direction.
She wanted to know what direction that was because I'm standing right here.
The direction is you don't have the job, and we don't know how we're going to work this out, because it sort of implied in the story that the head coach either didn't know about the HR process to follow to hire somebody, or maybe the coach was frustrated by all the extra layers of requirements HR has put in front of him to get a position. I don't really know. I don't know who this coach is. I'd like to know. But ultimately, I'm worried about this young woman who was wronged. I mean, she's kicking herself for not having a signed written offer of employment before she bothered to move. But she trusted the head coach of what seems to be, might be a well-known university out here in this area that just circumvented HR policies and practices. And then ultimately HR was somehow empowered to say, sorry, you don't have the job. Like, I just feel like this was totally botched.
And it was. Okay. We apply for jobs,
Right.
and we get that offer letter back.
You should, if the recruiter knows what they're doing.
Then all of a sudden that turns into we reconsidered after we get the offer letter and went in a different direction.
Yeah, but this woman didn't even have an offer.
I know. That's what I'm going. So that is the worst scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The offer letter being rescinded. Any recourse for that as to?
So the thing is, there's several steps a good recruiter in HR should be doing to complement what the hiring manager needs,
Okay.
to make sure that when you make a verbal offer first, and everybody's on the same page with money, with benefits, with start date, whatever requirements of pre-employment checks that have to be run before your first day of work, everyone should be on the same page with the verbal offer. If the verbal offer is accepted, then you do the written offer. Once the written offer is signed, if it's signed within the deadline prescribed in the written offer, you shouldn't really be changing your mind unless something